Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam. Let's do it together. Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dhirahet Ashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati. Translations. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer full obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, supremest human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and the Srila Vyasadeva, the author. For regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service unto the personality of Godhead, transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. Krishna, good morning. So nice to be back here in Gainesville after just 3 months away. But it feels like, I kind of was speaking, that feels like we never left. It just feels comfortable to be here. We know all the streets, know the people, just know the place here so well. And yeah, this is our home, and it just feels like that. Also, Bruce was sharing with me that he had been away for 5 months, but when he came back, he just felt like, he shared that he has never felt at home anywhere else other than his parents' home and here. So that was very relatable. Such a sweet place this is. We'll read today from Canto 3, Chapter 15, verse 26 to 36. Like usually we do, read the translations around the room, ladies and gents.
Thus, the great sage Sanka, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumar, upon reaching the above-mentioned Vaikuntha in the spiritual world, by dint of their mystic yoga performance, perceived unprecedented happiness. They found that the spiritual sky was illuminated by highly decorated airplanes, piloted by the best devotee of Vaikuntha, and was predominated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
After passing through the 6 entrances of Vaikuntha Puri, the Lord's residence, without feeling astonishment at all the decorations, they saw at the 7th gate 2 shining beings of the same age, armed with maces and adorned with most valuable jewelry, earrings, diamonds, helmets, garments, etc.
The 2 doormen were garlanded with fresh flowers, which attracted intoxicated bees, and which were placed around their necks and between their 4 blue arms. From their arched eyebrows, discontented nostrils, and reddish eyes, they appeared somewhat agitated.
The great sages, headed by Sanaka, had opened doors everywhere. They had no idea of ours and theirs. With open minds, they entered the 7th door out of their own will, just as they had passed through the 6 other doors, which were made of gold and platinum.
The 4 boy sages, who had nothing to cover their bodies but the atmosphere, looked only 5 years old, even though they were the oldest of all living creatures, and had realized the truth of the self. But when the porters, who happened to possess a disposition quite unpalatable to the Lord, saw the sages, they blocked their way with their staffs, despising their glories, although the sages did not deserve such treatment at their hands.
The Kumaras, although by far the fittest person, were thus forbidden entrance by the 2 chief doorkeepers of Srihari, while other divinities looked down upon. Their eyes suddenly turned red because of anger due to their great eagerness to see their most beloved master, Srihari, the personality of God.
The sages said, "Who are these 2 persons who have developed such a discordant mentality, even though they are posted in the service of the Lord in the highest position, and are expected to have developed the same qualities as the Lord? How are these 2 persons living in Vaikuntha? Where is the possibility of an enemy's coming into this kingdom of God? The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no enemy. Who could be envious of him? Probably these 2 persons are impostors. Therefore, they suspect others to be like themselves."
In the Vaikuntha world, there is complete harmony between the residents and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as there is complete harmony within space between the big and the small skies. Why then is there a seed of fear in this field of harmony? These two persons are dressed like inhabitants of Vaikuntha. Wherefrom can their disharmony come into existence?
Therefore, let us consider how these two contaminated persons should be punished. The punishment should be apt, for thus benefit can eventually be bestowed upon them. Since they find duality in the existence of Vaikuntha life, they are contaminated and should be removed from this place to the material world, where the living entities have three kinds of enemies.
When the doormen of Vaikuntha Loka, who were certainly devotees of the Lord, found that they were going to be cursed by the Brahmanas, they at once became very afraid and fell down at the feet of the Brahmanas in great anxiety. For a Brahmana's curse cannot be counteracted by any kind of weapon.
Last verse for today.
After being cursed by the sages, the doorman said, "It is quite apt that you have punished us for neglecting to respect sages like you, but we pray that due to your compassion at our repentance, the illusion of forgetting the Supreme Personality of Godhead will not come upon us as we go progressively downward."
That was the last verse for today. But we'll have Charlie read next time we go read something. Okay, so when we go back to we're supposed to read verse 31 today, but going to the beginning of the translations, it starts with, "Thus the great sages Sanaka Sanatana." If you remember, yesterday we were talking about the description of the planet of Vaikuntha, and after that it kind of seems like there is something missing. Thus the great sages, like maybe there was a story happening beforehand which is being continued now. So can anyone tell me who is speaking these verses? What is this conversation like? Who is this conversation in between? That's one step like going behind, but who's saying these set of verses? I could just say it, but I'm asking you because I've had a few opportunities of going class in Los Angeles Temple. There you don't have this interactive like method that we have here, so I really miss that. And I'm just, so maybe you can share some. Brahma, yeah. So this is Brahma telling the demigods, because Maitreya was telling Vidura about Kashyapa Muni, the sage. He put children in the womb of Diti, and when he did that, these were going to be demons. And just even before they were born, the demigods were scared of seeing all the omens, and they were being really scared. They went to the creator Brahma and asking them like, what is happening? Like what is going to save us? And so Brahma is telling the backstory of like who is going to come as these demons. And so for narrating that story, he goes back to when his sons, the four Kumaras, they were traveling through the Vaikuntha planets and their interaction with these two doormen. And the four Kumaras curse these two doormen who are going to come as demons. So that is the backstory. So Lord Brahma continues, thus the great sages. So these great sages are the first four born sons of Brahma. But you'd be astonished that it's described that they were just like little kids. They always appeared as 5-year-old kids, and they had, what was their covering? What did they have to wear? Atmosphere. What a beautiful covering. We cannot go by that at this day and age, but yeah, they were like just like kids. And if a kid does that, it's okay. No one really bats an eye. And they did not want to be entangled into the different aspects of adulthood, so they just consciously chose to always appear as 5-year-old boys, although they were the oldest like residents of the universe. Like even before Lord Shiva came, it was the four Kumaras were there, but they appeared just like 5-year-old boys. And Prabhupada says in one of these purports, like if a child were to walk through the door, like no one would really be concerned so much. I would try to say that, oh, why are you here? Like you just feel happy that there's a kid who walked through the door. Similarly, these four sages, they were not used to ours or theirs. Like they would just walk in anywhere. It's not like this door is like, they saw everything as their father's property. And so it was really surprising for them. So now they want to go see Vishnu. And so they're really surprised, like, why are we being stopped? This has never happened before to us. They know about the principle of Vaikuntha, where everyone is in harmony with each other, everyone respects and understands each other. So why are these two like doormen stopping us? This is so like out of the picture for them. But there's certain themes that we want to discuss today, and one of them is this: these sages are getting angry, and that might like really be concerning. I was hearing one talk by Gauranga Prabhu, where a certain person came up to him and told him, like, "You're a monk, right?" It's like, "Yeah, so you cannot be angry, right?" And he did say, "No, yeah, I don't think, yeah, you can make me angry." That person started pestering him. "So if I start dancing around you, would you get angry?" Prabhu said, "No." "So if I steal your food away, would you get angry?" Prabhu said, "No." And then he said, "If I followed you everywhere you go, would you get angry?" And Gauranga Prabhu said, "No." What I understand is that this Gauranga Prabhu is saying that I am full of purpose in my life. So these little actions don't make me angry. But you, because you have no purpose, you're really trying to find out what is going to make me angry. It's just a funny interaction. But yeah, in this case, Prabhu is saying that he doesn't get angry. But here we see that monks, these four sages, do get angry. And so, can we combine these two principles together? Sages and saints are like looked upon as the most peaceful section of the society. And when they get angry, people really think there is something wrong with them. There might be a deeper context to it, but overall judgment seems like there's something wrong. They shouldn't be angry. No matter what is happening, they should always be responding peacefully. It's kind of like an impersonalistic like tendency. Like they're all just achieved tranquility, they've achieved nirvana, so they don't have any emotions. So no matter what is happening, they shouldn't be angry, they shouldn't be feeling any emotions. But Prabhupada talks about in the purport, which we're going to read, that that is not the case. That our emotions go on with us, like they're also transcendental emotions. And anger, it's usually looked at as a negative emotion. But Prabhupada explains how anger can also be used in service. So for that, we'll go to verse 31 and read the purport after doing the Sanskrit. ताभ्यां मिषत्स्व निमिषेषु निषिध्यमानः
ताभ्यां विषत्स्व निमिषेषु निषिध्यमानः
श्वरतमा हि अपि हरे प्रतिहारपाभ्याम्
स्मरतमायपि हरे प्रतिहारपाभ्याम्
ऊचु सुहृत्तमधिदृक्षितभङ्ग ईशात्
ऊषु सुहृतमनिदृक्षितभङ्ग ईशात्
कामानुजेन सहसा तु उपप्लुताक्षः
कामानुजेन सहसा उपापुसाक्षात्
ताभ्यां मिषत्स्व निमिषेषु निषिध्यमानः स्वर्हत्तमा हि अपि हरे प्रतिहारपाभ्याम् ऊचु सुहृत्तमतिदृक्षितभङ्ग ईशात् कामानुजेन सहसा तु उपप्लुताक्षः ईशान ताभ्यामिषत्स्व निमिषेषु निषिध्यमानः स्वरतमा हि अपि हरे प्रतिहारपाभ्याम् ऊचु सुहृतमतिदृक्षितभङ्ग ईशात् कामानुजेन सहसा तौपप्लुताक्षः
ताभ्यां विषत्स्व निमिषेषु निषिध्यमानः
ताभ्यामिषत्स्व निमिषेषु निषिध्यमानः
स्वर्हत्तमा ह्यपि हरे प्रतिहारपाभ्याम्
स्वरतमा हि अपि हरे प्रतिहारपाभ्याम्
ऊचु सुहृत्तमधिदृक्षितभङ्ग ईशात्
ऊचु सुहृत्तमधिदृक्षितभङ्ग ईशात्
कामानुजेन सहसा
Daksha.
Kamanujena Sahasa Upagacha. Anyone else? Okay, we'll do the word for word together. Tabhyam, by these two porters, Mishatsu, while looking on, Animiseshu, demigods living in Vaikuntha, Vidyamanaha, being forbidden, Su Arhatamaha, by far the fittest persons, He api, although, Hare of Hari, Pratihara by the two doorkeepers, Uchu said, Surittama, most beloved, Didrikshata, eagerness to see, Bhange, hindrance, Ishat, slight, Kama Anujena, the younger brother of lust, anger, Sahasa, suddenly, they, those great sages, Upapluta, agitated, Akshaha, eyes. Translation together. When the Kumaras, although by far the fittest persons, thus forbidden entrance, doorkeepers of Srihari, while other divinities looked on, their eyes suddenly turned red because of anger, due to the great eagerness to see their most beloved master, Srihari, the personality of God. Read the purport by Sivangai Shiva, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Charlie, would you like to read the first paragraph? Thank you.
According to the Vedic system of
Sannyasi.
sannyasi, a person in the renounced order of life is dressed in saffron colored garments. The saffron dress is practically a passport for the mendicant and sannyasi to go anywhere. Sannyasi's duty is to enlighten people in Krishna consciousness. Those in the renounced order of life have no other business but preaching the glories and supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Vedic sociological conception is that sannyasi should not be restricted. He is allowed to go anywhere and everywhere he wants, and is not refused any gifts he might demand from a householder. The four Kumaras came to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. The word
Suhrittama.
Best of all, friends, it's important. As Lord Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, he is the best friend of all living entities.
Suhritam Sarva Bhutanam.
No one can be a greater, well-wishing friend to any living entity than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is so kindly disposed towards everyone that, in spite of our completely forgetting our relationship with the Supreme Lord, he comes himself, sometimes personally, as Lord Krishna appeared on this earth, and sometimes as his devotee, as did Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and sometimes he sends his bona fide devotees to claim all the fallen souls. Therefore, he is the greatest well-wishing friend of everyone, and the Kumaras coming to see him. The doorkeepers should have known that the four sages had no other business, and therefore to restrict them from entering the palace was not apt.
Thank you. That was awesome. Would anyone else like to read next purport? Next paragraph. President DJ or Bruce? Oh, okay.
In this verse, it is figuratively stated that the younger brother of desire suddenly appeared in person when the sages were forbidden to see their most beloved personality of Godhead. The younger brother of desire is anger. If one's desire is not fulfilled, the younger brother anger follows. Here we can mark that even great saintly persons, like the Kumaras, were also angry, but they were not angry for their personal interests. They were angry because they were forbidden to enter the palace to see the personality of Godhead. Therefore, the theory that in the perfectional stage one should not have anger is not supported in this verse. Anger will continue even in the liberated stage. These four mendicant brothers, the Kumaras, were considered liberated persons, but still they were angry because they were restricted in their service to the Lord. The difference between the anger of an ordinary person and that of a liberated person is that an ordinary person becomes angry because his sense desires are not being fulfilled, whereas a liberated person, like the Kumaras, becomes angry when restricted in the discharge of duties for serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. Brihat, would you like to finish?
In the previous verse, it has been clearly mentioned that the Kumaras were liberated persons. Viditatma tattva means one who understands the truth of self-realization. One who does not understand the truth of self-realization is called ignorant, but one who understands the self, the super self, their interrelation, and activities in self-realization is called Viditatma tattva. Although the Kumaras were already liberated persons, they nevertheless became angry. This point is very important. Becoming liberated does not necessitate losing one's sensual activities. Sense activities continue even in the liberated stage. The difference is, however, that activities in liberation are accepted only in connection with Krishna consciousness, whereas sense activities in the conditioned stage are enacted for personal sense gratification.
Thank you. So the question that we started with, how could these sages become angry? Prabhupada is answering that question in the purport, that the theory that what people think that once you become perfect, achieve perfection, you should not have any sensual activities. Like you should not get angry, you should not get sad or happy, just should be zen, like nothing else is happening. That is not supported in this verse. But the difference is that when a devotee gets angry, it is not for his own sense gratification. It's not that he was lusting after something and he did not get it. That's why he's frustrated. We're talking about pure devotees. But a materialist, on the other hand, why does he get frustrated? Why does he get angry? Because his lust is not fulfilled. It's funny, it's mentioned the younger brother of lust is anger. And so when someone does not get his desire fulfilled, the younger brother follows. There is a set of like steps in the Bhagavad Gita which is explained, like when do you get lusty and what happens after that when you don't get your lust fulfilled. Does anyone know how that verse starts? Dhyato vishatam vishan puncham sangateshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamam krodha vichayate. So first step is contemplating on the object of senses, and when you contemplate, you already you start developing lust, because lust is usually used in the sense of when a man desires a woman or woman desires a man, but in general it's the principle of wanting to enjoy something. Could be any object or any position, any achievement. When we get lusty after that, we might sometimes get it or sometimes we don't get it. And when that happens, when we're attached to that sense object, we get angry. And then there's the next verse which says, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibrama, smriti bhransad buddhi nasho, buddhi nashat pranashyati. So when you're angry, you get illusion. You're not sure about what's the right thing to do. But if this person or if anything comes in front of you, you feel like they are in the way of your achieving that object. So in that illusion, you lose your intelligence. You lose the ability to discern what is the right thing to do, what is not the right thing to do. And then it's a certain thing that happens, you have a fall down. It's quite, we don't really understand what a fall down means, but it generally means what, in a broader sense, it means that we just end up embarrassing ourselves because we lose our sense of discerning what is a good thing to do and what is not a good thing to do. And in a particular sense, it could really mean that we have certain vows that we have in our spiritual life, and we might end up losing those vows, which is generally referred to as fall down. But coming to the first step, so here these sages were angry not because they were lusty and they wanted something for their own sense gratification, but this was about seeing their Lord, seeing their beloved Lord Sri Hari, and they wanted to go see him, and they're really surprised why these two doorkeepers are stopping them. So we could then ask the question, why are these doorkeepers stopping these sages? They are the doormen of Vaikuntha. How could they make this mistake of not seeing who's trying to come inside the door? Isn't that confusing? They should have all the knowledge. These are the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha. They should be They have the form of the Supreme Lord. It's described. They're blue in color. They have 4 arms and they're bedecked with garlands and different kind of jewels, the same way like Lord Vishnu is decorated. So they should also have the same knowledge. But why is it that they're not able to understand who these 4 sages are? So we can focus on what we have to reflect or what we can learn from this situation. And that is that we cannot judge a devotee or any person by their external appearance. These sages just appeared as little boys, and that's why the doorman thought like they just wandering here by mistake. But this is such a serious place. This is such an elevated place. Lord Vishnu, the Lord of the universe, is residing here. Why would these just 4 boys just come in without having any appointment? In our lives, we have also heard in Chaitanya Charitamrita there are many instances like that when certain devotee was judged because of their outwardly appearance and how they were proven wrong. It might have happened in our lives too, that we end up in such a situation that we think a person or they appear really old, they're very shabbily dressed, maybe they're not very well to do, and maybe they don't know the philosophy very well. But then when we interact with them, we find out what really they are about. But if we don't do that, and if we judge someone by its external appearance, we might end up offending them by telling them something which is not nice for them and just being disrespectful. In the Nectar of Instruction, there is a verse that a devotee of Krishna, devotee of Hari, should never be judged by if they have a bodily deformity, if their appearance is not clean or something in that sort. They should never be made fun of, or then they should never be judged. If one does that, one has the tendency to commit an offense to such an elevated person. And we all know that in our devotional life, we should be very careful about not committing offense to any devotees. And this, although it could be done in ignorance, that we judge someone by their outwardly appearance, it is warned here that it's best we can err in the sense of being cautious, but not in the sense of acting on our assumption. And I'm remembering a few stories that's mentioned in the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, one of which was the Brahmana. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's mentioned there was a Brahmana who was illiterate. And he was reading the Gita, but he was holding it upside down because he didn't know which was straight up and which was upside down. And people were making fun of him. Like he's supposed to be reading this book, but he doesn't know like what is he doing? Like he should first like go to a school and properly learn how to read the letters and then come read this Gita. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him, he saw that he was holding the Gita upside down, but he was crying because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't know why he was crying. So he asked him, I can see that you are feeling very ecstatic emotions. Like, what is the reason behind you feeling this? And the Brahmana said, well, I'm an illiterate. I don't know how to read, but my spiritual master told me that you should read the Gita every day. And because, I'm committed to listening to him, I'm trying to read the Gita, but I don't know how to read. Then why do you have such intense emotions? He said, just by looking at the cover picture, which is Lord Krishna is standing on the battlefield. That is the story of the Bhagavad Gita. He's standing on the battlefield and he's acting as the charioteer of his devotee, Arjuna, and he's giving him wisdom. And he said that just by seeing this, that picture is actually in the corner here, where Krishna is giving instructions to Arjuna as his charioteer. And the Brahmana felt that Krishna is so amazing, like he's the Lord of the universe, but just for his devotee, he can become like a menial servant, can become a charioteer. When I see that, I'm so overwhelmed with ecstatic emotions that I cannot help but cry. This was one such example where we cannot know, like if a person, what his outwardly appearance is, you might assume they're not a scholar, but what is the real emotion that they have for Krishna? That is what we need to see. And until we can see that or understand that, we should not make fun of them. There's another story where there's a character named Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He's living in this Indian village named Chattagram. And everyone thinks he's such a materialistic person because he has a lot of wealth. His house is very ornately decorated. It's described when 2 devotees come to see him, Gadadhar Pandit and Mukunda Datta, he's sitting on a very lavishly decorated bed. which has nice inlays of wood and brass and all these precious metals. And it's a very soft cushion he's sitting on, and it's covered with very soft white cloth. And he's sitting in a very, what do you say, very relaxed, casual fashion. And he's surrounded by servants who are fanning him. And they have olives and grapes, maybe not olives, but they had grapes. Yeah, they had grapes around him, and he was popping them in his mouth, like very in a very aristocratic like sense. And his hair is described as being like completely combed back and slick with oil, very aromatic oil. And he had beetle nuts around him, or pan, which he was also chewing on. And it's described he had two mirrors on both sides of him. And so he would look at them and smile. And he would look at his lips, which had become red by chewing betel nut, and he would just look at him and look at it and his own reflection and smile. So these two devotees, when they came to him, so that's everyone in the village thought that he's such a materialist person. Like, what is this overindulgence in sensory activities? But this person, Mukunda Datta, he knew that he's a very elevated soul. He's a very senior like devotee. But the Gadadhar Pandit, this other devotee, he was having this doubt, like, why has my friend brought me here? Like, I don't think I should be here around such objects of opulence. And Mukunda Datta could sense that his friend is having this doubt. So he started reciting a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which talks about what a wonderful master, what a kind master Krishna is. This verse about Ahobakiyam Stanakala Kutam, like Putana, this wicked lady, she came to poison Krishna. But Krishna saw the good intention in her, that she wanted to nurse him. So he gave her the position of being a nurse in the spiritual world. And what a wonderful master Krishna is. Will I have a more wonderful person other than Krishna, more kind master of whom I can take shelter? So hearing this, Pundrik Vidyanidhi, he loses all his sense of outwardly appearance, that what is pretending to be. He just wants to be like this so people don't disturb him. People think he's a materialist and just leave him alone so he can do his own devotional activity. He did not want any fame or prestige or anything. But on hearing these glories of Krishna, he could not control himself. He just lost it all, literally. He started pulling on his well slicked back hair. He started rolling on the ground and he was crying, oh Krishna, where is my dear friend Krishna? And then Gadadhar Pandit understood that I have made such a huge mistake. I have thought in my mind that because he's appearing like aristocratic, wealthy person, that he could not be a devotee. Like devotees come in all shapes and sizes. When we're having a new person come into the door here, we don't know what level of devotional service they're at. So we need to be very cautious in how we deal with them. It's said in another purport that love for Godhead is every person's birthright. So imagine that. And if we were to err on the side of being rude to someone because they're very new, but we don't know like what level they're already practiced devotional service at. They might appear to be new, but they're probably picking up what they left off before. And maybe you all have some instances in your lives where you went through such a similar experience and you felt corrected, or you have heard of someone's story. So would anyone like to share? Or maybe in the Bhagavatam or scriptures, you know of a story which talks about a similar instance when some devotee was judged for his outwardly appearance, but it was not the right case. Yes, Prema.
Just a simple thing comes to mind. I remember being in the temple in Dallas, and one of the Prabhus there, he stopped me. He told me this, like what had just taken place. He was just like, "This just happened to me. Let me tell you about it." And what happened was he saw this woman walk into the temple wearing shoes. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, and she was like a devotee, she had tulsi beads on, and he was like, what is she doing? Like and then he went and looked closer, and they were special shoes because her legs are different lengths. So, and they were inside shoes, not outside shoes. So, and then he said, this is very similar. Recently, the same thing happened to him, where he saw a devotee chanting japa with the left hand and was like, oh my gosh, I should tell, like, do they not know? Like, maybe I should correct them. But it was a devotee, and then he looked closer and saw that her right hand was broken. So little things, little external things, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that happens to all of us. Yes. Andini Mataji?
I heard this story. I don't know if it's really where it came from, but I like the stories. There was a man on the road talking to God and saying, you know, when I get back to God, to you, I will take all the lies, you know, from the hair. I will make sure that you don't have any of those. And he was, you know, packing his own things and thinking he will offer to God. So some Brahmana came by and said, "You're crazy. God doesn't have any lies. What are you talking about?" So on the night the Brahmana had a dream, Krishna came and said, "Don't disturb my devotee. He's suffering the best he knows." He was taking his own lives.
Yeah. Exactly. Like we cannot know. We don't have the ability to know like where someone is at. So it's best to be cautious. We can be respectful from a distance, but if we're to correct them and if you're to offend them, they might just feel sad and maybe they won't get angry. In this case, the way the Kumaras reacted, which was again for not for their own desire, but for the purification of the two doormen. But it might so happen that the person we are offending, they might not react. But later, like Krishna told that person in the dream, maybe we'll get a realization that we have made a mistake, or we might not have a realization right away. But that offense will affect our devotional service, something that we really want to practice. Yes, Brian?
Bruce and I were reading recently in the Science of Self-Realization this interview Srila Prabhupada had with a London reporter. And he was questioning about, so why is it that you are supposed to be detached, you're a Swami, and yet your disciples are driving you around in a Rolls Royce, and they put you up in some penthouse suite. And Srila Prabhupada, he makes the point that he does regularly. Actually, for the representative of God, this is not even enough.
Should have a gold-plated
Even
Rolls
if it's
Royce.
a gold-plated Rolls Royce, that's not enough for the Supreme Personality of Godhead's representative.
Yeah.
But he also says that, yeah, you know, we travel around. Sometimes we sleep in a hut in Mayapur. Like you can still go today and see the little hut that Srila Prabhupada slept in, and with no plumbing and no facilities. And sometimes we get some nice place. We take whatever we get.
Yeah, the devotee is not attached to the external circumstance to perform his devotional service. If you want to share something? Okay, just a second. Yeah. So Prabhupada, when he got simple arrangements from his disciples, he accepted that. But he wanted them to understand that a representative of God, spiritual master, or any senior like Vaishnava should be treated with a lot of respect, with the best thing that we have. But because they have the understanding that this is not for me, I'm getting this respect, but it is because of Krishna. So they offer the respect to Krishna. They don't hold on to that admiration. They don't hold on to that object. Prabhupada wasn't like, this is my Rolls Royce and you have to use it every time for me. Like, why is there a different car the next time? That was not his mood.
Like the watches.
Yeah. Like he would get really expensive watches and sometimes he would just give it away to some of his disciples. And he would be asked, like, why do you have a gold watch? Like, okay, my disciple gifted it to me as a sincere gift. That's why I have this. So a devotee is not attached. We're not at that stage yet. But when we look at devotees, we should be very careful in not judging them because they have really expensive house, they live in a wealthy neighborhood, or any such thing. They have a very nice car. So we shouldn't be like, well, why should they have all these nice things? Because the devotee, they should be more simple. Yes, Narada.
Thank you, Nitai. I was just thinking, like, you know, naturally, in neophyte stages, you like oscillate in your chanting, and like sometimes you have attentive chanting, where you're like, where it's easier, and then sometimes even like weeks, where like some weeks it's easier and some weeks it's harder to chant. And I just was wondering if that's always directly correlated with offenses. Because sometimes I've also heard that Krishna will give taste and take it away, like, and he could do so through the medium of offenses. But I still am just curious, like, if we're not crying from chanting a holy name? Is it because we're offensive? And what is that? Is it, yeah.
So yesterday we were talking about external symptoms of practicing devotional service, and that we're not attached to the external symptom that we should be crying. So if you're not crying, it's okay. Like Krishna, when he gives us that, but also means that we're not at that perfect stage yet. But even the perfect devotees, it's not like they were always crying when they were like chanting. They also maintained a respectful external appearance, and that was their inner mood, which could be described as always hankering to chant. But then why do we sometimes feel really enthusiastic? We have really good like meditation, we can connect with the holy names, and sometimes we don't. Yeah, it could be that sometimes we are offensive, sometimes we have committed an offense without knowing, but at least it's good that we know or we realize that, oh, I'm not having a taste in chanting. Sometimes we don't even realize that. We just keep doing things in a very automated fashion. That's worse. If we this comes to my mind, oh, once upon a time I was really getting into this, and I was getting a lot of like deep absorption, but now it's not there. So maybe I have done something, or maybe it's just Krishna, he's trying to test me, like test my patience. Or maybe it's just that I'm not trying hard enough. Or maybe it's that I'm really going through a lot of external circumstances, but this is the best I can do. Sometimes that is what it might be, that this is the best I can do. Not getting proper taste in chanting, but at least I'm trying. So I really hope Krishna is seeing me. So it could be a combination of different factors. And yeah, there is no one clear way of seeing that. But if we are at least aware that I've had better days and I want to have those better days, that is what like Krishna will be pleased. And maybe our spiritual mentors will be pleased to hear that we are trying, whatever might be the reason behind it. Sorry, that's what my understanding was. We have Dvita Prabhu, and then Blake had something to say.
Thank you so much. That was a great answer. Blake, you wanna go ahead? I do have something.
Okay.
I was just thinking that for one, we can. It's hard, but if we can just learn how to mind our own business and leave correction to the spiritual master. You know what I'm saying? Like if someone needs to be corrected, like we don't have to be the one to do it. And I think also just like being attached to like the rules and regulations and then judging others is like a fault of our own. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like regardless of what the other person's doing or why they're doing it.
Yeah, our mind is very like finicky. It just brings out something that, yeah, it's our own attachment to rules and regulations. Like, why are they using the left hand? Why are they wearing, like you were saying, why are they wearing shoes inside? Why are they offering obeisances the wrong way? Like, these are all different like rules that we have created in our heart and in our mind, and we can follow them as much as we can. But in Krishna house, we have the system that we don't just correct anyone who's doing anything we don't think is correct. We have a chain of command, and we tell our senior person, the ashram leader, or the chaplain, and they can be the one who like convey that message in a very gentle way. If we don't have that position, it's not we should not be correcting someone.
And somebody posted a nice visual. It says mind your own bhakti.
Yeah. Not be concerned about how is their bhakti going.
Yeah, if somebody's going around correcting everybody, who's bringing it to the authorities. So, because it can create disturbance. It will actually, it will create disturbance. If I may go back to your original point of not to judge the book by the cover. And granted, this is everything happens just so the lila can happen and unfold. But isn't that we can actually apply the same logic or approach to, if you want to take it a little further, that guards, Jaya Mitra, they were also just doing their service.
Yeah.
And not to be judge them, and their folk Kumars were kind of quick on a trigger, and
yeah,
and they could have given the benefit of the doubt, and
yeah,
and say what, like Why again? Because they were the first one to kind of agitated.
It says in one of the verses that the gods were already, they had disoriented nostrils.
Yeah,
They were already
28.
reddish.
I think
Yeah.
28.
Already upset. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, what's going on? So
Yeah.
maybe they had a bad day, or
Yeah.
or you know, the breakfast wasn't to their liking.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be some. So for Kumaras to just kind of, you know, curse them without checking in.
Mm.
I mean, I don't find it kind and compassionate.
Mhm. That's not.
And again, this is for the sake of Alila, but what would you? Are they really to be at fault, or what is your take on? Are the Kumars like a little? They're a little immature.
That's a tough question. Kalindi has to share something. Before that, I was thinking, yeah, we cannot even judge. We're talking about how the two doorkeepers were judging the four Kumaras. But maybe we should not be judging the two doormen also. Like, how could they do this? Like, why did they not know that these were four sages?
Just didn't get a memo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Four Kumars are coming.
So these things are there for our instruction. But in general, like there's this saying that Vaishnavara Kriya Mudra, Vijnana Bujaya, like we cannot really decipher the reason behind the actions of devotees. So we have to be very, very careful in trying to understand them. Yeah, there is probably more that could be said about why the Kumaras were not tolerant. And I don't really have a proper understanding of that, but except for the fact that it had to happen for a certain reason. Kalindi, do you have to add anything?
Well, just to add to the pile of what ifs or maybes, I was just reflecting when I was listening to what the two of you were discussing. You know, they might have seen in the two that there was a little ego there.
That we are the doorkeepers.
Yeah, so they wanted to give them a little service in experiencing that Leela.
Yeah, that's true. There's so many understandings that could be added. Thank you for sharing that.
Place for egos on Vaikuntha sky.
That's what they're questioning. Like, how could there be a place of disharmony? Like, how could there be a seed of fear in this place? Kandini, she can share.
Just remind me the Kumaras, the two doorkeepers, you know, apologized, and the Kumara apologized, and then Krishna came, and then he apologized. Everybody apologized.
That is what is going to happen in the future verses. Yeah. Krishna comes and says, "Oh, you're very inconvenienced that you couldn't come see me. Like, sorry about that." And after they're cursed, the two doorkeepers, they ask for forgiveness. They're really sad that, oh, sorry, we offended you, but they know that, like, if they have cursed me, I have to take it. But then there's another point that I want to end with. The doorkeepers, they had one prayer that no matter what we do, like we from the spiritual world, we have to go down to the material world, we have to be these demons. But please bless us that we never forget our Lord, our dear Lord Hari. That is the worst thing that could happen to us if we were to forget him completely. So please give us this blessing that that never happens to us. So there's this point Prabhupada makes that for a devotee, the worst thing that could happen, the worst calamity is if he forgets his dear friend, if he forgets his best friend, his beloved Lord Hari. This is verse Narayana Parasarvena Kutashana Vibhyati. For a devotee of the Lord, it does not matter if he's in hell or heaven or in any unfavorable circumstance, because he remembers Krishna, he sees all of them as apitulyartha darshana. But if his worst fear is that, what if I forget him? Like I don't want to forget him because of any reason. And Kunti prays that because of these calamities, I'm able to remember you, I'm able to see you. So please give me these hard circumstances so I can keep seeing you. She's really attached to seeing Krishna just because she knows that when there'll be difficult times, Krishna will come personally to save them, to help them. And that's all enlivens her, that's all fills her heart. So that's all I had to share. If would anyone like to, add anything else?
Thank you so much for a wonderful class. As you were sharing just now, one thing that came to mind is that if we are to judge the book by the cover, and because Kumars are children, that we should be very careful not to become angry, or even show some signs of anger
Towards children.
because reactions are catastrophic. And in light of Damodar Lila also, when Maria Yashoda saw that Damodar was afraid, immediately she threw away a stick. Because children should never be just afraid or just in anxiety or judged in that kind of way, but rather sheltered and welcomed and served and cared for.
They should not be brought up in an atmosphere of fear and being judged. Thank you. Such a wonderful point. If no one else has anything to share, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol. Sharira Vidya Jal Jarendriya Kaheka Jive Fele Vishaya Sagare Karmati Jivati Lobhamastu Durmati Take Jeta Katina Samsare Krishna Bodo Doya Moy Paripare Vaprasada Niloman Bhagavad Mahaprasadam. Jai. Haribol.